Hi there, and welcome back to Let's Talk Wellness with Shal podcast, a space to pause, breathe, and reconnect. Together, we explore simple ways to bring mindfulness, yoga, and holistic wellness into daily living through my own experiences and inspiring conversations with global practitioners. My name is Shalini Tyagaraja. I'm a corporate tech leader, a wellness coach, and a founder of Mindspace, where I guide individuals to cultivate a strong mind-body connection through mindfulness, meditation, breathwork, and holistic wellness. So today's episode is called Mindful Living, the Yoga of Everyday Choices and Nourishment Beyond Food. In this episode, we're going to explore how the ancient wisdom of yoga and the integrative approach to nutrition are deeply connected, both guiding us towards presence, balance, and self-awareness. So I had recently finished my Integrative Nutrition Health Coach certification, and I wanted to, think about how I bridge or draw parallels between that learning and my learnings with the yoga philosophy as a certified instructor and breath work, and how to bring all of this holistic wellness together. So that's the intent of this episode. I'm going to try and draw some parallels with my learnings thus far. So, when we think of yoga, we often picture a mat, the poses, the flow, the breath. But yoga, at its heart, is a philosophy for living with awareness. I had an episode previously about the 8 limbs of yoga, which is the traditional definition by Maharishi Patanjali. So I would urge you to go back and listen to that episode, which will walk you through each one of those 8 limbs, where, again, just asanas or the practice on the mat is only one of the 8 parts of the definition. So through these 8 limbs, we're invited to live with kindness, also called Ahimsa in Sanskrit, truth, which is Satya, balance, and reflection. Again, these are not just practices, but they are gentle reminders for how to show up in everyday life. And this is where I felt yoga meets integrative nutrition, where I got certified as an IIN health coach and as a yoga instructor. This is where I felt there was a lot of parallels and connections. So when you think about it, yoga and integrative nutrition ask the same question: how can I bring consciousness into my daily choices? And when we see life through this lens, every action, starting from the food we eat to words we speak, everything becomes an opportunity for mindful living. So at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, I learned that well-being is nourished in 2 ways. Again, I have 2 different detailed episodes in my podcast about the primary and secondary foods, but I'm going to touch on that very high level here. So primary foods are things that feed your soul: relationships, career, movement, and finding purpose and joy through spirituality. Secondary foods are what you actually eat on your plate. So really the underlying philosophy here with the integrative nutrition is when you're fulfilled in this primary foods, then the food on your plate becomes secondary. But when those areas feel off balance, that's when stress, loneliness, disconnection, and no diet really on your plate can fill that gap. That is why it's so critical for your primary foods to actually nourish you first before what you put on your plate. And yoga helps us reconnect with those inner sources of nourishment because it teaches us presence, self-awareness, balance, which is the very foundation of holistic living. So now let's actually explore what this would look like in daily life and how we can bring some small practices as I connect the themes of yoga philosophy and my integrative nutrition health coach learning concepts, and how do we kind of bring this all to some practical daily action. So we'll start with morning rituals. From a yogic lens, in Sanskrit, called Sankalpa, or setting an intention. And through the integrative lens, we talk about the primary food, which is spirituality and self-connection. So a practical tip for day-to-day, before reaching out for your phone, place your hand on your heart and ask, what do I need today to feel balanced or nourished? It could be energy, calm, or clarity. But when you start by setting a simple intention at the beginning of your day, before any distractions, you align both with your yoga practice and the primary food of spiritual connection. Second, mindful eating. How can we breathe before we take that bite? From a yoga lens, we think about Ahimsa, which is non-harming from thoughts, words, actions. And pranayama, we talk about breath. From an integrative nutrition lens perspective, this is when secondary food, that's food on the plate, actually meets your primary food. So before your first bite, pause and take a conscious breath and ask yourself, am I eating out of hunger or habit? Because when you eat with awareness and gratitude, food becomes medicine, not just for your body, but for the mind and spirit. So that moment of pause and that breath before you take a bite is yoga in motion. Third, listening to your body. From a yoga lens, we talk about the Sanskrit term Svadhyaya, which is self-study and inner reflection. And from an integrative nutrition lens, this is a term called bio-individuality. Again, I had a separate episode diving just into this concept. So yoga tells us that no two bodies are the same. And so does integrative nutrition. It tells us there's no one diet that's going to fit everybody. So notice what food, what movement, rest, what actually nourishes you. Because some days you may just crave stillness and quiet. Other days you want energy. So listen to the body without judgment. And this is both yoga and holistic nutrition working together. It is a practice of curiosity and not criticism. Fourth one, self-talk and boundaries. From a yoga lens, we talk about satya, or speaking your truth. Also aparigraha, which is releasing the need to hold on to something which actually doesn't serve us. And when you think about that from an integrative nutrition lens, it is primary food where we talk about relationships and self-worth. So your relationship with yourself is your most constant nourishment source. And when you replace that harsh self-talk with compassion, you actually live in alignment with truth and non-grasping. You start to honor your boundaries, energy, and your needs without guilt. Every no that protects your peace is an act of self-care, and every yes which honors your values is an act of yoga. And another last one is your practical day-to-day tip: reflection before bed. From a yoga lens, pratyahara, which means withdrawing inwards and connecting with your true self. And from an integrative nutrition perspective, that is primary food, where you find purpose and joy in life. So at the end of your day, unplug for a few moments. Whether you light a candle, you journal, maybe you listen to some music, or just simply breathing. Ask yourself, what moments today actually nourished my spirit? When you reflect with gratitude and you close your day with presence and not pressure, that is how we learn to return to our joy and purpose, one breath and one day at a time. So as I wrap this session, I invite you to reflect on one question. What does nourishment beyond food mean to you today? Because remember, yoga isn't always just what happens on the mat. It is the awareness that we carry off the mat into our meals, our relationships, our choices, our interactions with people, the community, and our hearts. When we live from that place of mindfulness, then balance becomes your natural state. Thank you for taking this time to pause and breathe with me today, and to listen to how we can draw those parallels between yoga off the mat and from an integrative nutrition lens to think about food beyond our plates. If this episode resonated, please share this with somebody who could use a reminder to slow down and reconnect. And as always, take care of your mind, your body, and your inner space. Please tune in to Let's Talk Wellness with Shal on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Spread the word, and I would love to hear a comment and feedback about how you felt and what you learned from this episode. Thank you.